Hello, you beautiful people out there, and welcome to the Banner Gaming's Ahead of the Curve. Today we're talking about Hearthstone and dusting off those old cards. This is Kimosabex.
I'm Naomi.
And my name is Wisdom.
Wise.
And as Kimo mentioned, the principle here today is that we want to take some time to talk about just the significance of the way that new cards, when they're added into the game, especially a game like this one, can really serve to revitalize old ones. And I think that that's actually going to have some interesting implications for the different play modes that they've set up and are going to be rolling out fairly shortly here.
So, here's the bottom line, people. I actually called this slightly before. In our previous episode, we talked about Hearthstone, but I did. Yeah, actually. I did. Essentially, what I said in the last episode, if you remember, and of course I know you remember everything I say because it's all magic that comes out of my mouth. People are going to have to get in a different mindset with the cards that we have now, because when you're playing standard play, which is only going to be the base cards, which are the original cards, plus whatever is the current legal set, cards that were previously bad or previously good, you can't compare them against all the illegal cards now, and it's hard to get out of your mind that one card that was mediocre then, I said, could be really good now. And, Blizzard came out with an article pretty much taking what I said and using it to their will, so they owe me a check. But it pretty much says, whatever we come out with our new expansions, it can make cards that you might think are no good, really good, and vice versa. So they gave a couple, examples in this wonderful letter that they copied off me. But I think a great one is Mysterious Challenger. It's a battle cry. You put one of each secret from your deck into the field. It's a paladin card. Now, there's some pretty stupid paladin secrets. I remember one is like, you put one down, next turn all of your current minions get +1/+1. There's one where, I don't know, there's a lot. There's a lot of secrets, but not a lot that would correspond with the current meta and what's going on. However, if you put him in your deck and you draw this guy, you put him out, you get him all played for free right out of your deck, which is pretty cool. Reno Jackson is a great example.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I've got a good Reno Jackson story just from yesterday.
I made a Warlock deck with Reno Jackson, so essentially instead of using 2 Demon Fires, which does 2 damage to all non-demons, or 2 Hellfires, which does 3 damage to all characters, use one of each, and I have one card of each deck. My deck's on fire with Reno Jackson. It pretty much takes a card that you might not have wanted played, but since you don't want to play 2 of one type, you do, and you get full health. It's an amazing card. That piled on with the guy who you use your battle cries twice. It makes for an interesting play style where cards that weren't as useful become useful.
What was your story?
Very, very similar. I, in 6 or 7 turns, got a Warlock down to about 7 health, and then they played Reno Jackson. And
sorry, go ahead, Wisdom.
More than a little bit annoying.
Yeah. Oh.
Wait, I didn't hear Wisdom's story. I was distracted by
he got almost killed a Warlock. They put out a Reno Jackson, and he cried a little inside.
Yeah, and they ended up totally taking it.
Do you know how satisfying that is for me? I have an awesome Warlock deck I can show you. And it pretty much comes to, I got one heal bot, one of the Earthseekers that restore 3 health, one Reno Jackson, one of the guys that double your battle cry. Pretty much, it's one of everything. And it's awesome because with 6 mana, I can put out double battle cry, double Earthseeker, and do 6 health just like that. I can do double antique bots just like that. And the best of all, just the 8 mana life tap. When you're getting your ass kicked, throw down Reno Jackson with full health, and you just got all these high-powered cards in your hand, and you're like, I'm about to wreck your face, son. I wonder if I played you yesterday. It's possible. Possible it was you. Never noticed.
Who did you beat?
Too busy. So many people. I can't take a list of everybody I beat. Come on now. But, getting a little serious. What do you guys think? I mean, is there any cards that you see now that have potential for future decks based on what they do? I mean, they already said like Nexramus, they did the Death Rattle kind of mechanic, and Argent Tournament, they did the Inspire, but they can't do every single card with either one of those mechanics because that would just be redonkulous. Um, but I kind of called it. I think you can have interesting combos that weren't interesting before.
Well, I don't think that that's necessarily news. I mean, I don't know what their next big mechanic will be, but I can, off the top of my head, there's a whole set of shaman cards that just revolve around buffing totems, and that's not an effective playstyle. It just doesn't really work. And I think it would be interesting to see something that whether it just buffs your hero power outright or helps you play with those bigger sets of minions, but it seems like the framework is there. It's just not potent enough to be playable. So I'm gonna keep my eye open for things in upcoming expansions that may make that feasible. So I think that it's easy to see opportunities where you can sort of note down, okay, well this looks like later on it'll be valuable, sort of like with the paladin secrets that no one really wants to play until there's a card that makes them decent, things like that. But I don't know what's coming next.
Aren't they also risking, like, I guess, making games uneven by playing like this? So if you have, what is a card called? Reno Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you play that card at the end when you're like at 6 health and you go to full health, isn't that broken? Really, really broken?
Well, I mean, it comes at the cost of not being able to double up on anything. Like, you can only have one of particular cards, and in some instances that's not a big deal. Like if you're playing an all legendary deck or something silly like that, then you're only going to end up with one of every card. But a lot of the decks I play have a lot of duplicates, so it would require some reworking for me to be able to pull off Reno Jackson effectively.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and my Warlock deck does not currently have this, but depending on how long you let your ball swing for, if I'm not mistaken, you can still play duplicates, but as long as there's not a duplicate left in your current deck when you physically play Reno Jackson, he will heal you to 1 full health.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's what Ben told me, and generally he's right, but it's still a risky play, because if he could be completely useless.
Now, does duplicates mean like you can't have 2 of the same minion, or does it mean you can't
anything.
have 2 of the? You didn't let me finish. 2 of a spell card. Like, can you have 2 spell cards if they're different, or can you not have any type of card that is the same?
You can have types, so like you can have 29 different minions in Reno Jackson, and that's fine, or 29 different spells in Reno Jackson, but they have to be unique minions, unique spells.
Okay, so it's not broken. It's pretty.
So like
hard
how
to
you
get
you can place 2 of any cards into a deck except legendaries. You just can't if you want to play him effectively.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, which makes cards you wouldn't generally use a little bit more viable, especially.
Well, and it means you're not looking for like 18 cards for your deck. You're looking for 29.
Okay.
Yeah, and now like a Warlock, you'd want 2 Antique Bots. What do? Well, you have the card, and I forget the name, Bronzebeard, I think, or something. It doubles the battle cry. So with that same Antique Bot, you would get the effect of 2 for 1. Same with the Earthseeker for healing 3 health, you get to 2 for 1. So essentially, if you play it right, get RNG right, field control right, you're essentially kind of still getting the value of 2 without actually having to. If things go well that game for you. So it's interesting.
Okay, so now, I was imagining like 1 spell, 1 taunt, 1 like kind of that kind of thing, and that's why I was like, oh, it's so broken, but I guess it's not.
Yeah. Now I'd be curious to see if you can break other people's Reno Jackson decks when you're playing. Rogues have something that lets you stack sets of cards into other people's decks, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I ended up playing against a couple different people who ended up shuffling cards into my deck, and it was a set of 3 different cards, or 3 of the same card, and so
I know what you're talking about.
I think you could break it with that. So you end up having like you shuffle into their deck so they can't play their Reno Jackson.
I know who we can ask that would probably have an answer.
If only he was actually still co-hosting.
Oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, one of the things in this article that made me laugh was they said something about keep your imagination open for doing funny off the wall kind of decks, and it reminded me of way back I was playing with Ben, and I played a priest deck where I used the Shadow Priest, the healing bubble to kill everybody, and I'm bad with names. I know all the cards. I'm just bad with the names, but the clerics to draw cards. So I started the game against him, and I'm when you put out the 1/3 for the priest and the other guy, you don't generally don't want to put out anything less than a 3 because the priest will just heal it and get a free card. So sometimes it's like that awkward, do I skip a turn, do I not kind of thing. I'm just drawing cards against Ben. I'm like, wow, he's really off this game. I'm getting this nice card advantage. Oh, he's going down. I don't remember if it was Rogue or Druid, but he had this deck that he played the Panda cards that return the card up from the field, and he played the Murlocs that had you draw 2 cards, and he played Neutralize where you kill a minion, the other guy gets 2 cards. He had it was Druid. He had all of these cards that made me draw, so he was intentionally letting me draw out, and he had a deck out deck. And I decked out. And it was, I couldn't, but I mean, this was way back before, generally people thought of this kind of thing or, did this. And I'm just like, I'm kicking your ass, noob. I'm like, all these cards in my hand. I'm like, what's he gonna do? I got all these cards in my hand, yo. Even if I'm a little behind, he's got 3 cards. I got like all these cards here. I was big on the card advantage and the card draw. Next thing I know, I mean, it's just one burn card after next burn card after next burn card after next burn card. Fatigue. And before I blinked, I was dead. And it was hilarious. Probably the most fun I've had losing. Until the second time I played it where I knew it was coming and I still didn't beat it. It was frustrating. But I wonder what creative decks people can think of when they're not worried about all of these cards and all of these metas and what goofy contraptions they'll come up with.
I'm glad that Blizzard is taking this approach to Hearthstone game design because I think it really rewards understanding what the cards are and intelligent deck building, which I think is really important because it is way too easy in a lot of different games to find what is the best way to play and just do that. Craft a deck for, 1700 dust or whatever that's going to let you basically like ladder to 15 or whatever and be able to just be effective by following someone else's guide. But instead, although that might be feasible to some extent, far and away, it's the smart, creative solutions that end up being more effective, and I like that.
Yep. So, if you have legendary you think might not be useful, I would actually, especially if it's a basic set, I would hold off on that disenchant button. I'd still disenchant obviously any extras, but I know people who disenchant their current ones to get, the meta and get into competitiveness. I would probably encourage against that. I know I've always wanted a Ragnaros, never pulled one, and I never wanted to spend the money on one because it was no longer really cool to use, but I've always had fun using him. I know Illidan was one of my first legendaries, and I always had fun using him even though he wasn't that great. I hope there's something they put in there to make them really, really cool and useful. But hold off on your disenchants, for the cards you don't have copies of, because you might be kicking yourself later. I think this wraps it up, though. You guys got anything else to say?
No, I think that just about covers this.
Yeah, Kimo called it. Well, thank you all for watching The Banner Gaming's Ahead of the Curve. This has been Kimosabex.
This has been Naomi.
And as always, my name has been Wisdom. If you like what we do and you want to see more, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like the art that makes us look so good, go ahead and check out our artist link down in the description below.
And let us know, what do you think, what is the most useless card? Angry Chicken. What is the most useless card now you think that will, or what's a card you think that's useless that has a potential to make a comeback? I think Wisdom actually, pains me to admit it, had a good idea with the whole totem thing, because although there's Totem Inspire now, there's no room for any of those health cards and any of that in there, and I think there is a lot of potential, especially once this Inspire goes retire. Remix, but let us know what you think. This has been Kimosabex, and thank you all for watching. Bye-bye!